people, today we're doing snowman nails. Now the snowman part is a recreation of somebody else's art. I don't have the lady's name, unfortunately, so if you're watching this and it's yours, holler and I'll give you credit. Starting off with some prepped medium length oval tips, and we're going to go in. They're all going to be this pale blue. In case you're wondering why I don't have gloves on, by the time I decided what I was going to do for this set and got the stuff together and got the tips prepped, I only had like 15 minutes left. So I didn't want to waste a pair of gloves, so I was just trying to be careful not to slop anything on my hands. So I was able to get the two coats of the base color on, and then tomorrow we will pick up with the rest of it. Okay, and these are going to be going into cure, and then we're ready for round 2, second coat. Now, I'm not going to put a second coat on the pinky nail because we're going to sugar that one, and why waste polish if we don't need to? The price of everything is getting so high, I'm trying to scrimp and save anywhere I can. I've used this color before. I really like this pale blue color. It's really pretty. And I have to see if I can't find a full-size bottle of it because the one I have is just a teeny tiny, like little sample bottle. Okay, and once I'm happy with that and smoothing it out, it will be ready for curing, and then we can move on. And we're going to start off with the snowman and using gel paint. Starting with the white gel paint. And there's a picture of the original set that I was copying from. Now, unfortunately, I don't know the lady's name, like I said. I'd like to give her credit. So if anybody knows who did it, let me know. But we're just doing the snowman now. We're not going to be doing the rest of the set. And eventually, we're going to get going with the snowman. I don't know what happened here. Okay. Here we go. We have our detailer brush. Now you're going to see me glob quite a lot of paint on here, which I don't normally do on a detailer brush. But since we have a big area to cover, that's what I went with. We're going to start off with the lower part of the body. Now, quite frankly, I should have got a bigger brush to do this part, but I did not. So we're just going to have to bear with me on here. Now, I left the whole entire painting of the snowman and all that stuff in real time, so you guys can see how long it takes. Oh, I did forget to say this set in total took me about 2.5 hours to do, for those of you keeping track. Now, you don't have to be real perfect with getting this, with a perfect round shape at the top there, because the scarf is going to cover some of that. And this is where a bigger brush right now would have paid off, instead of doing this and filling it all in with the detailer brush. But that's what I started with, so that's what I went with. I hope you guys all had a good Christmas. I had all 3 of my kids together at my parents' house, which is a very rare occasion, so that was really nice for me, and for my parents, for that matter. Neither one of them are in very good health, so this possibly could be our last Christmas. I don't want to go down that road right now, but anyway, that was the requisite hair for this one. But we've got it cleaned off, and we're going to carry on, finish the body here. I know you guys are probably going to hate this, but at Christmas Day, it was 82 degrees at their house. They live out in Palm Desert. So we had all the doors open with the screens and everything. It was very nice. I hesitated to say anything because I know the bulk of the rest of the country has been freezing. But anyway, let's move on. It's my weather report for the day. But we're back to freezing cold. We've had rain for 2 days again now. Anyway, when I'm happy, I'm right here. I'm just kind of smoothing the white out because it's a little splotchy looking. But once I am happy with it, we're going to move on to the head. Now, I will tell you, in hindsight, I wish I'd made the head a little bit bigger. Because looking at him, his head's a little bit kind of, I think, slightly too small. But it is what it is, and I just went with it. Now, I decided to try this. I've seen other people doing it. In an effort to get a more round circle, I'm going to start with a plus sign and work off of that. It did work, kind of, but as I was going, I decided to make the head a little bigger because it was even smaller. And as I just said, in hindsight, I would have gone even bigger with it, but as I got about that point, I decided, you know what, this is going to be too small. So as I come back around the first part, it's going to start to get bigger again. I'm going to go out and start making it a little bigger. I was trying to be mindful of the fact that I had to fit a whole hat on top of his head. And, you know, like obviously you can see where I've left a gap between the body and the head for where the scarf is going to go. And this is not the thumbnail, this is the middle finger. So if I had done him on the thumbnail, I would have had more real estate to work with for painting stuff. But I did not do that. So once I'm happy with the circle, I'm just going to fill him in. This took a little bit of playing around here to get this to be kind of what I was trying to go for. And he could have even been bigger yet, but I was afraid I was going to run out of room for the hat and the stuff at the top. So I stopped right there, I think, and now we're just going to fill in. But I will say, having the plus sign in there, it did help me to keep it more on the roundy side. As when I try to eyeball stuff and just do it myself, it doesn't always go well. And more often than not, it doesn't go well. And then there's a lot of extra fooling around trying to get it to where I want it. And once again, I'm just going to try to even out the white a little bit. Eventually, I'm going to be happy with it, and then we're going to go ahead and cure this. Okay, now that has been cured, and now we're moving on to the scarf and the hat. I'm using polish to do this. I probably had some mud gels I could have used for this part, but I didn't. We're just going to go, now obviously she did hers in purple, and since I've already done a few sets of purple nails lately, I figured I'd switch back to blue now. Okay, we're just going to go in and do the scarf first, and in between the body and the head, we're just going to paint like a long rectangle in there, and that will be the part of the scarf that wraps around. Now, as you'll notice, working with the gel polish rather than the paint, you'll see how it kind of wants to bead up at the end of my brush into like a little dot of stuff instead of staying smoothly on there like the paint does. So that's one thing you're going to need to be mindful of, and you'll see where that comes into play later when we're doing the finer details. But then we've got the middle part of the scarf. We're just going to fill that in. One thing I have left off is on her, she had little like blush color on the cheeks. I did not do that on mine. Okay, and once I'm happy with that, we're going to move on to the part of the scarf that hangs down. Now I started off making this kind of with a pointy end, but then I decided I didn't like it. So I will, when I get down there, when I'm filling this in, I will square that end off again. And here's where we're going to start to square that off again. Okay. Once I'm happy with that, we're going to move on to the hat. There, see how it has that big blob on the end? Really don't want that. Now on the hat one, we want to curve it around a little bit so it's like it's fit onto his head. Now also be mindful there's going to be a pom-pom on the top of the hat, so you got to leave room for that too. And as I started to get down into here, I'm going to realize that the top part is not going to hold 3 stripes that I need to go across there for the embossing. So I will go down onto the head more and make it longer at the bottom. I believe I'll do that after I fill it in. All in all, except for this hand painting part, and there's not that much to it, so I think most people could probably handle doing this set. I mean, you do need a little bit of a steady hand for the painting, but the painting parts are really fairly simple, so I mean, I think most people could handle it. You will need a detailer brush, though. Okay, I'm just going to make that, like I said, a little bit longer there. And then I'm going to try to straighten it out so we've got a smoother line going across so it's not kind of wavy looking like it is there. And when I'm happy with it, we're going to cure that. And he's back out cured. Now I am moving on to the pom-pom. And I'm going to just do a white circle up here, a white ball. Now this doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to fuzz it out. Just get it generally round. Okay, now I am going to clean my brush off. That is just a lint-free wipe with alcohol on it. You want a clean brush for this part because I'm just going to use the very tip of the brush and we're just going to drag out some little fuzz bits off of there so it looks like the pom-pom bits sticking out. Now later on we're going to be embossing this part and we're going to do this whole part again. Doing just like a second layer to it. So this part, a lot of this isn't totally going to show up very well, but still I wanted to have a little bit more of the fuzz look going to it. So I'm just going to keep going around and around until I'm happy with mostly how it looks. You see how it's losing the round shape? That's why I said don't worry about making it perfectly round. You can kind of get it back when you're doing this, just by moving it around, going around. But every so often, if you get too much paint on your brush, just wipe it off. Otherwise, your lines will start to get too thick. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cure that. Actually, did I cure that? Actually, no, I didn't cure that yet. We're going to move on to the face now, and I'm using this polish just for the carrot nose. You only need the tiniest little bit. Any orange will do. Now here's where that polish beading up on my brush is going to become an issue. See how that dot is on the end? We really don't want that. Now had I been using gel paint, that wouldn't have happened like that. But now I don't know where I've gone and what I'm doing at this point, but let's see. Okay, I'm trying to very carefully decide where the nose was going to go before I get a big bead going there on my brush again. And once I get my first line on there, then I don't have to be quite as careful because I know where it's going to go. Now the base end obviously is going to be a bit fatter because that's where the bigger part of the carrot is. And then we're going to hopefully get the rest of that painted. A little pointy bit. Now you'll see it underneath the edge of there. There's kind of a bit that sticks out. We're going to take care of that in a minute. Just going to get this rest of here happy where I'm happy. Honestly, it shouldn't take this much just to paint this little thing on there. Okay, now we're going to clean up underneath the edge of that carrot where there's a little bit that's hanging down. Now this detailer brush has got another end. It's got shorter bristles and they're a little bit more like packed together so it's not as thin. But I'm going to get some alcohol on that and then we're just going to erase that little bit that's hanging down right there. And now that's good to go. That's all we're going to do for there. And I will clean my brush yet one more time. And we're moving on to the stick arms. Any brown polish will do. Once again, I could have used gel paint or some mud gels, but I just was doing this quickly. Sorry, my alarm again. Thought I could get this done before that was going to go off. Okay, we don't need a whole lot of this either. Now, I was doing both snowmen at the same time, so I was jumping back and forth between the two. So if things look a little weird, sometimes I may be working on one, sometimes it might have been the other one. But we're just going to go in with this and make some real quick and easy little stick arms on the side. Now I will just drag out from the stem like the little bits coming off. I don't want to start like right where it's going to come off at and then paint it because then your lines are going to get real fat and you may not want them like that. Now as I say that, I think I do that on this part and you'll see the difference. How one of them is going to look real fat and the rest are going to look nice and thin like little twigs. Okay, that's all there is to that. And give him his other arm. This is why I said I think most people could handle this. Even though there is detail painting, it's really simple stuff. It should be fairly easy to do. And if the worst comes to worst, you can always wipe it off and go again. Now, I haven't cured any of this stuff since, when we did the pom-pom, I haven't cured that, and I haven't cured any of the colored stuff yet. You can flash it in between each one if you want, or fully cure, whatever. I felt like I could handle this without smudging anything at that point, so I think I decided to give him one more thing off of there. See, now that's too fat. I wasn't happy with that, but at that point, I didn't feel like wiping it off, so we just went with it. But there's his arms. Okay, now we're ready to tackle the rest of the face. So I am going to switch to black gel paint here. And I am going to get out the tiniest dotting tool that I have, which I will show you in a second. Okay, here's the tiniest one I have. We're going to just dot his eyes on there. Now, I wasn't 100% sure exactly where I wanted them, so the first dot I put on is going to be smaller just so I can get my placement, and if I'm happy with that, which I was, then I'll go over it and do a bigger dot. Okay, then we'll do the other one. Also, during this part, while you have the dotting tool, this is where you would put the buttons on there. I totally forgot about the buttons until the very end, so you're going to see me do it at the end, but this is where you should be doing it, because then you're going to top coat, and then everything's all top coated together. I had to do an extra thing with top coat at the end to cover the buttons because they would have been shiny. Now, I did cure that after that point because I figured if any place I was going to screw up, it was going to be on the mouth, and if I needed to wipe the mouth off, I didn't want to have to worry about wiping off the nose or any other part of the face. So that is why I cured after that point with the eyes. Now I was trying to get a little bit more of a curve on the right side there so he looked more smiley. This is where things kind of went a little wonky. You're going to see me be going back and forth with cleaning off stuff. Okay, this is where I'm going to use my cleanup brush now, I think, with just some alcohol. I'm going to go clean that bottom bit up. And I decided, okay, he needs a little more cleaning over here. Now, you want to wipe your brush off after each stroke when you're cleaning stuff, because if you don't, you're going to see what happens in a minute. I thought I could get away without doing it there, and I did not wipe it off, and then I went back to do some more, and then you're going to see what happens. Oh wait, now I'm back to the painting. Well, we're going to get to that part, and you're going to see what happens when you don't clean it off properly. I just wanted a little bit more of a curvy bit on that side, and I was trying not to let it touch the carrot part. And this is why I left this also in real time, so you guys can see it doesn't always go smoothly. You know, you see other videos and people just do a quick swipe and they've got this perfect smile on there. For me, that doesn't always work. I generally have to play with stuff a bit. Now, I didn't wipe that off this time. Let me see if I do it again, and you'll see what's going to happen. I'm going to end up with, okay, I didn't get any there, but my point being, if you don't wipe it off, there's still going to be a tiny bit of the residue of the black on there. And then as you're wiping the second time, it's going to end up where you don't want it. Now there, I was just trying to thin it out. Now see, I didn't, oh yes, I did wipe. I wiped it, but I didn't clean it. So you're going to see what happens here. See, now I've got that black line going down underneath because I was being lazy instead of fully cleaning it off with the wipe and everything. So now we got to erase that, clean that off. We still have more. We got to do some more cleanup. Looks like he's got a weird rogue beard hair on there. And then I wanted to thin him out a little. Okay, now once I clean that little bit off the corner there, I probably should have stopped there, but I kept going. There was a little piece sticking out there, and there's a little bit on the top. It's like top lip area that needs to be off. Now, are we happy with it? We might be. Yes, we are. Okay, he's going in for curing. Now we're moving on to, these are 3D stickers. Well, it says 5D. That's the brand name, but these are the ones I used. These are already they're embossed because they stick up is what I'm trying to say here. So I didn't feel like hand painting snowflakes on here. I didn't want to do any more of the dot drag snowflakes because I've done a bunch of those lately. And my painting and getting everything to be neat and even of a snowflake with arms with different stuff on it like that would not have come out as nice or as defined. So that's what we have good old stickers for. Plus, they're already raised up like they're embossed, so that saved me some time there. Okay, that was the thumb you just saw. This is the index finger I'm going to do here next. As you can see, some of the snowflakes in this set had a little bit of blue in the background. I was going to use those, but it was a different color blue than what I had on my nail. And I thought it might kind of clash because it's a little bit more of a turquoisey blue. Which I guess in hindsight I could have used those because the sugar isn't exactly this color blue either. So okay, and that one is done. Now I decided the thumb needed one more. Now watch this. You're going to see the vanishing snowflake here. Watch. You see it? And then you don't. And I looked all over my desk, under the nail, all over my glove, everywhere. It was just gone. I don't know where it went. I still haven't found it. It was just gone. It just literally vanished. So like, well, okay, take two. We're going to get another one. I think I was checking my clothes at that point. My gloves. I don't know where it went. It's just gone. That seems to happen with stuff for me, and I don't know where it goes. I think there's a black hole on my desk somewhere, and stuff just disappears into it. I've lost a lot of crystals and caviar beads like that, too. They're just nowhere to be found. Okay, that one's ready. And moving on to the ring finger. Now, I am going to be putting a crystal swoosh on here. So I decided to do a faint pencil line where the swoosh is going to be so that I can see where to put the snowflakes so they're not going to run into each other. Usually I don't do this, and frankly, I'm glad I did. I think it came out better in the end. I was able to get my swooshes to be pretty close to looking the same. Normally, when I try to just eyeball them, if I have one on each hand, they always look totally different because I can't get the same curve going. But that helped me with my placement for the snowflakes. And then we're going to do one more little one on the top. And we'll just tap those guys down. And once I know they are on there real well, we are ready to move on to top coat, I believe. Okay, I know what's happening up there, but okay, that's where we are so far. We're ready for top coating. Now we're doing a matte top coat here. Now you're going to see this as it goes on. It's going to look a little bit yellowy. Now, I have never had a Beetles top coat matte top go yellowy like that on me. This was the first time. So what I'm going to do is you're going to start to see me brush it off a lot where the snowflakes are because I didn't want it pooling up and making a big pool around there. Plus, the more of it I got off, the less yellowy it was looking. But I still want it to be a nice smooth finish, so we got to make sure we have it all the way to the edges as we don't want to see any shiny stuff showing through there. And I also don't want a bunch of excess on there either. And we're also going to have another problem when we get to the snowman that we're going to have to go over. Now, I was kind of shocked that this was doing this because I had never had this issue with this brand before. This was why I didn't get any more of the Vanillisa matte top because it was yellowy. I also have a Model 1s that I splurged and bought a bigger name brand one. I haven't tried that one yet. Now this also had an issue which I never had happen before. Is you're going to start to see, and it's probably because I brushed over it too many times, the blue from the hat and the scarf is gonna start to run, and you can start seeing it there. Now what I ended up doing is you're just gonna see me, I'm gonna fix this real easy. I'm just gonna go back over it like there. I'm not gonna brush down from it again. I'm just gonna brush across. Now you'll see it better on the head. See? We're just cleaning the blue off of there. I don't know why that did that on here. Like I said, I never had that issue, and down here under the scarf too. But it cleaned up quickly and easily, so no big deal. And on this one, as I start to paint the top coat of this on, you're going to see the pencil line is just completely going to disappear and go off. Now, if you mess up with your pencil line, you can take it off easily with alcohol. It'll come right off of there. But it also, as I was not aware, it disappeared with the top coat, so I did re-put it on again before I did the crystals. But those are ready to go in for curing. Now notice we did not do the pinky. That's not going to have a matte top. Okay, for the pinky now, since we're sugaring it, this is the set of sugar glitters I'm using, this pale blue. It does have some iridescent in there with it. I believe I got that set off of Amazon. Now on this, I'm using my regular tempered top coat that I normally would be using for stuff. I'm going to put that on, and then we are going to go in, and I'm going to use the scooping method for this because it's hard for me to handle those little glitter pots with my gloves, and inevitably I've dropped them so many times because I can't maneuver them around my fingers very well with gloves on. But we're just going to keep pouring sugared glitter over this until we're happy with the amount that's on there. I did dab the tip a little bit because it didn't seem like it was wanting to stick on there very well. Normally, if I had a bigger pot of glitter or a bigger thing to handle, I would just take it and pour it over the whole nail. This took a lot longer, but I have to say it was a lot neater. I didn't make as big of a mess this way. So you can do it however you want. This is just the way I did it. Now I'm going to go around the edge and I'm going to tap off that, make sure I don't need glitter bits sticking out because they're going to be rough. Also, I should have very gently patted that glitter down. I did not do that. But that went in for a double cure, which was 2 minutes. Okay, so that's in there curing right now. Now we're going to move back to the blue polish that we used on the scarf, and we're going to do the embossing now. So we're going to paint vertical lines on the scarf that goes crossways. Okay, now you want to get your lines fairly close together, but not so close together that the polish is going to run together. And also bear in mind, when you put the acrylic powder on there for embossing it, that's going to make it heavy and it's going to squish it down just a little bit. So it's going to cause your lines to fatten out a little bit more. So you have to kind of be mindful of those two things when you're putting them on. I think some of mine got a little close together. So some of them kind of looked a little squishy. But this is what's going to give us our knit look. And then on the hanging down part of the scarf, you're going to go horizontally with your lines. And try to keep them in the scarf area. As you can see at the top of my scarf, there's a couple of them where I went over. I think I just realized at that point I never turned my overhead light on. It's next to the camera. Like, geez, I'm almost done. I didn't turn the light on. No, that's typical of me, you guys. So anyway, back to this. Same thing in here. Try to keep it within the scarf. Later on, before we put the embossing stuff on here, I'm going to clean up that at the top of the scarf where I went over a little bit. But once I'm happy with that, we're going to move on to the hat. Okay, the hat is going to have 3 lines on the top part of the hat, like the triangle-y part. And then there's like a cuff that's turned up at the bottom base of the hat. So you need to leave room for that part. Now I realize at some point on here that I've gotten too much on the right side of that stripy part on the hat, and when I paint the second stripe on, it's going to be too close to that and it's going to run together and I'm going to have to start over. See, it's run together there on the right. So now we're going to need to wipe that part off and start over. And boop, there we go. Take 2 on the hat. Once again, I just wanted you guys to see things don't always go. They don't always go as smoothly as they may look sometimes. I just like to make sure you guys know that sometimes there's trial and error involved. Everything is not going to go perfectly. So if you go in knowing that, it won't be quite as frustrating. There goes the second stripe. Now you want these stripes to be have enough polish so they're kind of sort of on the thicker side, but like I said, you don't want them running together either because you need that thickness for the embossing part. Okay, and once I'm happy with that, then we're going to go to the little cuff part. Now those stripes on there have to go vertically again, like the middle scarf part. Now these are even shorter, so this is a little bit tougher to get in here without having it run into the top stripe and also not go down into his face. This is where you need steady hands. You know, some days I'm okay with that kind of stuff. Some days I'm having a shaky hand day, and this kind of stuff gets to be very frustrating. Once I'm happy with that, we're going to go back and we're going to clean up now any sloppage before we put the embossing powder on, or acrylic, I mean. And I am looking for my cleanup again. We're going to clean that top of that. Just going to erase those right off of there so they're not sticking out. Get rid of all those little bits and bobs that are sticking out where they shouldn't be. And there, the down part of there. And also I think there's a little bit at the top of the hat. Am I going to take that one off? I don't remember now. I guess not. Okay, now we're ready for, this is clear acrylic powder. This is going to pick up whatever color polish you've painted with. I know it looks white, but it really isn't. And we're just going to pour this on there. And now you'll be able to start to see your definition of your lines better. Because I know it wasn't showing up on camera very well. We're just going to keep pouring this on and letting it soak up into that polish. And we're just going to keep doing this over and over until the polish looks opaque and you don't see it looking shiny or wet anymore. It may take a while. You may have to do this over top several times before it's soaked up as much as it can hold. Now also notice on the scarf how the lines have squished out now and they're getting fatter and fatter. That's why you got to be careful about painting them too close together. Okay, see his scarf got shiny bits there. That really needs more on there, but it doesn't look like I'm going to put any more on. And he's going in for a double cure now also, which is 2 minutes. Now, I believe yeah, there's the sugared ones. Those are out. And we're just going to brush off any excess glitter that might be loose. Easy peasy, and now you've got some blue sugar nails, and those are going to be done and ready to go. You won't do anything else with those. And I was starting to get ready for the embossing stuff on these because I was going to do some snow dots. So we're getting our white gel paint back out. As I was getting ready for that, he got done in there, so we're going to take him out and brush him off. Now, since I was working on both of these guys at the same time, I think I switched over to the other one, so that's going to get cut out. You won't see that, but there he is. Actually, I know what I was going to do. We're going to go back and finish the pom-pom. I want to get all the loose acrylic powder off of here really well because we're going to be putting more stuff in. I want to make sure it's got a good surface that's clean for it to stick to. Okay, so with the white gel paint, we're going to now make another dot, a big dot in the pom-pom area up there on his top of his hat. Just gonna like smush it out. And once again, it doesn't have to be perfectly, it doesn't have to be perfectly round. I'm also going to be putting a couple of random snow dots on here. Now these are all going to get embossed with the acrylic powder also. So now, okay, here, this is another thing where I went wrong. I got my brush. Now it still had blue paint because I still had to do the painting on the snowman. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to use the smaller end of the cleanup brush side that I was using. And you'll see the difference because this is a fatter brush that this doesn't have as thin of an end on it. And you'll see how the lines, when I start to drag them out, are going to be much fatter than we want them to be. See, we don't want that. Now, after I've done this for a little bit, I'm not going to be happy with that. And what I'm going to do is stop being lazy, and then I'm going to clean the blue paint off the other end of this that has the skinnier, the finer end of the detailer brush. See, I really was not happy with that. So now I'm going to clean the other end off with the blue, and then we're going to go in and do that properly like I should have done in the first place. Now see how much finer those lines are? That's more what we want. So we're just going to kind of go around all there. You can do this as little or as much as you want, depending on how poofy you want it to look. I was trying to get some of those fatter ones to be either thinned out or have some thinner ones with them. But when I am happy with it, then we're going to go in and use the acrylic powder and get that onto the pom-pom and the extra little snow dots on the sides. Okay, we'll just dump it back in the jar and start over this way. Okay. Now I'll warn you too, if you haven't worked with acrylic powder before, it's ultra, ultra fine. And it builds up. You get like a really fine layer of it on the nail stand and your gloves, or your fingers if you don't have gloves on, and it becomes like slick and slippery almost to hold on to it because you're holding on to like a layer of acrylic powder where it wants to move, it wants to slide around. Once I get that to the point where I do not see it getting shiny anymore, I'm going to put him back up on the nail stand, and we're going to move on to, this is the thumbnail. We're just going to do some random white snow dots on here, and then we will emboss them. The same way we've been doing with the acrylic powder. One tip when using a dotting tool I can give you is just to go straight up and down with it. Don't go at an angle. And as you pull it up, it's going to leave like a string of paint or polish, whatever you're using. So hold it straight up above there for, just like a half a second till you see that string go back down into the center. Because if you pull it off to the side, you're going to end up with a little tail sticking out of your dot, and it's not going to look good. It's not going to be round. But once again, we're just going to keep pouring this on there until those little dots are not looking shiny anymore. It may take several tries, especially if you get really heavy, thick dots. It's going to take a lot more to soak up. When you're happy with it, I'm putting that up on the stand. We'll do the same on this one. Now that one dot that I just put, that first one, is a lot heavier than the other one, so it took a lot more. There, did you see the tail on there? If you're not careful, when you pull that off, it'll go off to the side and ruin your perfect little circle. Now these dots were a bit heavier, so they're going to take more of the acrylic powder to soak in there. Now see, I almost dropped that nail stand because it's starting to get slick now. You wouldn't think the powder would make it slick like that, but it does. I've dropped stuff numerous times for that very reason. And then if you mess your design up, then you've got to wipe it off and start over again. Also, you want to be careful you don't bump the edge of your whatever container you're pouring it out of onto the design you're trying to get the powder onto, because that's another good way to mess it up. And I've done that too. See, nearly dropped it again now. Okay, eventually we're going to be happy when it has soaked up enough stuff to stay matte looking. Okay, and we're moving on to the... Now my line is gone where I had the pencil line, so I'm just going to have to wing it where I'm just going to put 2 little dots on this one on either side, in a place where hopefully they're not going to run into where the crystal line is going to be. And we're going to go back to this, same thing. And once I get this done and put this on the rack, then that whole rack is going to go in for a 2-minute cure. As with embossing, we want to double cure everything. So making sure it cures all the way through. And there we are. That's ready to go in and going to get cured. Okay, it's back out now. Now I've brushed them all off, and this is where I'm going to do the buttons. Now if you paid attention earlier, your buttons will already be on there, and you won't have to do this step right now. You will have done it earlier. Now my buttons, once they cure, are going to be shiny again. So what I'm just going to do is take the brush, the bottle brush, out in the matte top, and I'm just going to dab it on those where that buttons are. Because you can't top coat over where you've already had embossing. It will not look good. Okay, moving on to the crystals. I've got these kind of opal crystals. I'm going to use those pale blue and the white ones. And I have drawn my pencil line back on there. Got our crystal glue, gem glue, whatever you want to call it. And those are those guys after they're all brushed off and all finished. And their buttons have been matted. Okay, moving on. We're going to alternate between the blue and the white, and we're going to start with, well, first I'm going to get the glue on there. Yeah, that would help, wouldn't it? I'm going to be extra careful with the glue on these because, as I just said before, I cannot top coat again over these because of the embossing, like I normally would top coat again around the crystal area to clean up any gluey mess. Well, that is not going to work for this, so extra careful with the glue. Now you'll notice I have no gloves on again all of a sudden. This is day 3 now. I couldn't get them quite done the day before this, so I had to come back in the next day to do the crystals. But we'll start with the biggest one in the center, and then we're going to work outwards from there, getting slightly smaller and alternating the colors between the blue and the white. And I'm trying to get something the same size as the other one. And since I mixed all my sizes into one section, it's a little hard to find ones that were going to work. See, that one looked a little bit too small. The other one looked a little too big. Call this the Goldilocks method. You just keep going until I find the one that's just right. Now I know some of them look a little yellowy now because of the way the light is shining on them, but trust me, they are blue and they are white. And we're just going to keep going until we get them all the way out to the end. We're just going to keep getting smaller and smaller. Oh, The natives are getting restless out there. It's past their feeding times, and my cats are all freaking out there now. Like, oh my God, we're going to starve to death. It's 20 minutes past when we're supposed to eat. Those of you guys that have cats, you know what I'm talking about. So, sorry if you're going to start hearing meowing happening. We're almost done, I swear, and then we're going to be ready to go. Okay, I have sped up this whole section with the crystals and the caviar beads because, frankly, it takes a while. You guys don't need to see all of it, but I'm putting the glue dots on very carefully with that tiny dotting tool for where the caviar beads are going to go because, like I said, I don't want any extra glue sloppage to have to try and clean up. There will be caviar beads in between each crystal and then one at the very end of each line of the line. And also I want to be mindful of when I pull that away, the glue wants to make a string, so I have to be careful that that's not going out onto the nail, making a mess there. There's a good shot of my thumbnail with the polish chipped off of it. Well, these nails only have to last me a few more days and I'll be redoing my own set. Okay, we're ready for caviar beads. We're going to use the next to the smallest ones on the big beads. Normally I just use all the littlest ones, but you know, I have all these other ones, so I decided I'm going to use a little bit slightly bigger one for the three biggest crystals, and then I'll switch to the teeny tiny ones. I'm just picking them up with a brush, putting them in there, nestling them in. Now we're going to switch to the little itty teeny tiny one. The trick is to have just enough glue on your brush that they stick on there, but not so much that they don't want to come off and stay on the nail. And then we got the one at the end. We got to go down the other side. Some of these are stuck together because usually when I'm using them, I'm picking them out of that little wheel that they're in with my brush that usually has glue or something on it, so they sometimes get glued together in there. They're easily broken apart. I used, there's like my cuticle pusher one, metal one, has got the opposite end where the little scooper thing is I was using earlier. There's kind of like a blade looking thing on there. That's what I was using to break them apart, in case anybody was wondering. See that part, there we go. They come apart very easily, and then we can just continue on. Now, like I said, this is sped up to double time, so however long this section is running, it took me that much, twice as long. And there we go. I'm going to give that a cure, and then we're done. Yay, here we are to finish that. If you like how these came out, please give me a like. I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to see more, I upload a new one every Saturday, so please subscribe. I really enjoy any comments I get, and I will answer all of them, so let me know what you think. But there's the finished picture, and that is it. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.